Okay, yes. So what we will present today is the result of a project of an internship by Samuel, supervised by me, and it deals with mimesis, poiesis, and text-to-image generation. So we start with an introduction, and that's when you now try to generate images with AI on the basis of biblical stories, you find well pictures that seem to reflect the stories quite well. So with the two images you see here, one is just image that you find with a Google search on Moses found in the river, and the other is an AI-generated image. So somehow the text-to-image generation more and more is able to imitate what we find if we just do a Google search. But the more it is able to the more it is able to imitate, the question is there also any creativity, or is AI just able to imitate what people do and what is abundantly found on the internet? So, of course, that relates to the definition of creativity. I have just two definitions. I will not go too deep into it, but what you see is that quite often, well, I'm happy that Samuel's back. So that quite often creativity is defined in terms of novelty or well, invention. I just started my part, Samuel, and you can take over when it's your turn. Um, so a related topic is imagination. So David Holtz, the founder of Midjourney, defines AI and Midjourney as augmented imagination. Well, that's interesting because on the one hand, it seems that text-to-image generations can augment our imagination, but on the other hand, text-to-image generation and more general new technologies has often been considered as threatening human imagination, with TV and cinema, and also in the case of AI generated art, it has been considered the homogenization of images and imagination. So, well, that's somehow the starting point for our investigation. So what we did is that we took a text from the Bible. I will not read it aloud. It's the famous story of Moses found in the river Nile. And we used this text as prompt with different Bible translations or some prompts based on this story. But so, in many cases, just the biblical text to see what, how the images were created from this text, this prompt. And now I give over to Samuel. So Samuel, tell me if I have to go to the next slide.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm so sorry about that. And I'm currently in the hospital, so just in case you hear push, then I have to quickly go to the maternity ward. So thank you, Professor. Our data. So we collected 3 types of data for this particular research. We generated about 417 images from Midjourney version 6.1. We selected images that showed up with Google search, and we selected historical paintings that can be found in various repositories of museums and digital art history collections, such as that from the Rijksmuseum, the National Gallery, and Web Gallery of Art, and etc. Next slide. Again, since we took the Bible passage, as we've earlier stated in Exodus chapter 2, verses 5 to 9, we had to collect also the visual element within the text. To evaluate the images, we identify key visual elements described in the biblical text, such as characters, settings, actions, colors, and symbols. We then examine how consistently and accurately these elements appeared in visualizations across 3 datasets. This allowed us to assess the fidelity, emphasis, and interpretive choices made in each image in relation to the scriptural narrative. And here we have a few of the visual elements here. As you can see, Pharaoh's daughter at the river, the baskets in the reeds, attendants or maidens, open basket, crying child, dialogue and interaction, the river and the reeds as setting. So we'll go to the evaluation. So for evaluation, we realized that there were some elements, visual elements from the Bible story that consistently appeared in all AI-generated images, such as a woman, supposedly, or the Pharaoh's daughter, a boy, the Moses in a basket, a water body, River Nile, reeds and reflections. And also we had, however, other details like secondary figures and background elements and symbolic motifs were less consistently represented. For example, the number of maidens. In some images, we can see 2 or 3 maidens. Some we could see more. And even in some images, there were no maidens at all. Also, Moses' age, we could see the variety as the images came across. Some were newborns, some also toddler, and also Egyptian architectural elements, mostly in the background. Although many images generated using only the biblical text as a prompt resemble those commonly found on the internet, more creative and varied results emerged when we adjusted the prompt. For example, by combining artistic styles using parameters like weird or emphasizing specific narrative elements. These adjustments allow AI to move beyond conventional depictions and offer new visual elements of the text. And some of the common parameters that Midjourney uses is chaos. And then the chaos controls the unpredictability of image results, and it ranges from 0 to 100. So if it is 0, then it's more consistent. And if it is 100, then it could be more surprising. And also weird also adds artistic and surreal distortions. So that also has a range from 0 to 3,000. Higher means stranger visuals. And stylize or stylization also controls how strongly Midjourney follows its artistic style. Higher values equals more stylization and less literal. So these are some of the parameters. So in case you see chaos and weirdness underneath some of the images, then that is where that comes from. So we can see a prompt such as a modern day image of baby Moses found in a basket at the River Nile by Gen Z, daughter of Pharaoh and her friends, with weirdness of 3,000, chaos of 40, gives us some this particular kind of image. We can go to the next slide. This is another example of how prompting can situate the biblical story in modern context, making it more relatable, especially for children, by combining biblical narratives with contemporary and culturally familiar elements, such as cartoon styles, everyday settings, or modern clothing. The AI produces visualizations that depart from historical realism. This suggests that prompting allows for virtually limitless combinations, including those that introduce motifs and aesthetics entirely foreign to the ancient biblical world. So this is also an example of a prompt we use, similar to the first one, but just made some variations with weirdness, etc. We go to the next slide. This example also shows how weird the outcome can be. Although a woman, which is the princess, and a baby in a basket are still recognizable. And with this prompt, we try to stretch the limit to see the creativity of Midjourney. We'll jump to another slide. Now, with this particular one, you can note the clothing styles, which are not historically specific, and the skin tones represented in the figures. The inclusion of 2 babies on the box, apart from the biblical detail of a single infant, the background scenes with the river and palm trees could plausibly represent ancient Egypt. but also resonate with other African environments, suggesting a broader, more inclusive visual context. We can go to another one. So this last image here also is another example, and you can see note the skin color and the clothes of the princess, as in many pictures generated. The boy noted here in the box does not look like a 3-year-old baby, but yeah. So and that also with this particular one, the prompt was just the entire text from the new revised standard version. So we didn't do anything to it. We just took the text, put it there, and increased the scale of the weirdness and rerun it. And then it gives this particular image without having to play with the skin color whatsoever at all. So at this point, I revert back to Professor Van Peursen.
Yes, so of course the theme of this conference is creativity, and well, we can see some creativity, but of course the question is, when do we consider something creative and when do we consider it inaccurate? So we have seen, for example, with the two babies, something that is unexpected, and here we also find some unexpected images, like a man on the left, or the child carrying a basket on the right. And perhaps we are inclined to consider that inaccurate or errors rather than creativity. But well, if Michelangelo or Rembrandt would paint a man in the scene, perhaps you would call it a daring, artistic attempt. So and also the picture in the middle is not what we imagine if we think of the Moses story in Exodus 2. So dealing with creativity and with art, we also thought we should also compare it with human art. And well, we took a whole selection of paintings, but let us discuss only one, which is a 17th century painting by Nicolas Poussin. And I could spend the rest of the day by discussing all the details of this painting. There's a lot of publications written about this painting, about its composition, the emotion expressed in not so much in the faces, but in the movements. In fact, the whole composition is reminiscent of other paintings, also by Poussin, of the Adoration of the Magi or the Adoration of the Shepherds. It reminds of other paintings, well, in which Jesus performs a miracle. The clothes of the Moses' mother, white and blue, somehow remind us of Virgin Mary. So there are all kinds of symbolic layers, because Poussin, on the one hand, in his time, Moses was considered as a prefiguration of Christ, and therefore there were parallels indicated between the finding of Moses and baby Moses and baby Jesus. But also Moses was considered as one of the sages in lines with Plato or Hermes. And well, there are all kinds of small references or similarities with other paintings that reveal such symbolic layers. And we can also discuss all the details in the background, the Egyptian background, adoration of Anubis, and other things. So we could discuss a lot about, say, the iconography, the composition, the symbolic layers. And in that sense, there are also a lot of issues that we do not find in the AI-generated images, how beautiful they may be. So there are those emotional and symbolic layers. There is the iconographical significance, the composition, and then of course also the authorial intent. So we can study Poussin's own view on Moses, which was one of his favorite figures in his paintings, and how he relates it, as I said, on the one hand in the theology of his time to Christ, and on the other hand to say other ancient sages. And of course there's another aspect, and that is the materiality and immediacy. So we are now comparing two images in a PowerPoint, but Poussin is well, a large picture of, I think, 1.5 by 170 square meter in the National Gallery in London. So we could also discuss the brushes of paint and things like that. And well, that's also often overlooked if we just talk about, say, AI generated art. So that's a dimension of, well, ancient art. So when we come to the conclusions, there's an interplay between mimesis, the imitation of traditional art, and poiesis, so the creative aspect. And in comparison with Google search images, the AI-generated biblical imagery offers new possibilities for more diverse and imaginative creative engagement. So we have seen some examples of that, but it also raises critical questions about accuracy, artistic bias, and, well, the role of AI. And in comparison to the classical paintings, Midjourney exhibits some level of artistic flexibility. So you can also ask Midjourney to make a painting in Renaissance style or classicist style, but it lacks the intentional theological symbolism embedded in classical religious art. And in the evolving landscape of digital biblical interpretation, AI functions not just as a replicator of sacred imagery, but as a participant in the creative process, shaping new ways of seeing and understanding biblical text in the modern digital age. Thank you.